Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's Author Live. I'm Ishvi Mishra, and today I'm in conversation with Aditya Modak, and we'll be discussing his latest release, Arachnid. Hi, Aditya. Can you introduce yourself and your book to the audience, please?
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. And my name is Aditya Modak.
Uh-huh.
I'm a student of film studies. I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently studying in Jadavpur University. And this Arachnid, this is my
Yes.
first novel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I could just say something about this in very short, is that Arachnid is the story of a man who lives in a world where nothing really makes sense. And he tries to make sense of this world that he is living in, while at the same time he fights his own repressed demons, which
Right.
appears before him in the form of spiders. Now, the spiders could be both literal or symbolic. It depends on the
Uh-huh.
reader.
I see. Honestly, I'm very excited to discuss this book with you. I had an amazing time reading it. So we'll get to the themes in a while. But before that, can you talk about your inspiration for writing this book?
Yeah, the inspiration was actually a spider, like a real
Oh,
spider. It was
really?
the, yeah. So one day I just saw a spider on the wall in my house, and I thought that shall I write a story about an arachnophobic man?
Ah,
So that's how it started. Actually, it started off as a short story. I just thought of writing about how a man deals with this phobia, because the fear of spiders, I think, is a very primal kind of fear. Like, you don't have to teach anybody to be scared of spiders. You need
right.
people need to maybe learn to grow out of this fear, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like a primal fear. It's always there. When you see a
Right.
spider, you feel scared. So that's how it started. That was the inspiration, a spider.
Okay, I see. I feel like it's very interesting how you mentioned this sort of primal fear, because I feel like this kind of really echoes in your writing as well. This fear, this kind of sinister vibe is in your writing in the entire book, which is amazing. And you talked about the book being the character trying to make a sense of like an irrational world, right? So that kind of defines absurdism. Right. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm assuming that this writing style, your writing style, is very much influenced by the art of absurdism, right?
yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay.
I
So
have been influenced by writers like Kafka and
uh,
mostly by Albert Camus. So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention the fact that I find a lot of parallels with Kafka's The Metamorphosis, and it's brilliant in that way. I feel like there's these themes of like existentialism and alienation, isolation, and this kind of burden of responsibility. So, can you talk a bit about the themes that you've explored in the book?
The first theme, of course, the most apparent one is that of fear, like fear of all
Right.
forms. Because since we are looking at the story mostly from the perspective of Jay, the protagonist,
Yes.
so his fears are like layered in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fear of being a family man, fear of providing for his family, for his job, and then on
Uh-huh.
top of it, there's the fear of the spiders.
Right.
So fear is one of the most important things. The other one is like this dystopian world. It's actually, I mean, I would not really prefer to call it a dystopian world, because I've not mentioned any year or such, because I wanted the time period to be between like what we consider to be a stable world and the
Mm-hmm.
dystopian world. So it's kind of like the transition period. It's kind of like a
Okay.
transition. That's why the confusion is more heightened, because it's trying to keep in touch with whatever has been going on around him, but it's not possible. So loneliness is another part, because although he feels, I mean, he is surrounded by people. Jay is surrounded by people in his office, and of course the city is hugely populated, but still, regardless of that, he feels lonely.
Mm.
So this is something that anybody can experience at any time, especially if you're like your socio-political or socio-economic uh, situation is in such a way that it
Mm.
will push you to a certain amount of loneliness. So these are
Right.
few of the apparent themes of the book.
Brilliant. I think that's all of this is brilliantly reflected in the book. Because we're talking about like a dystopian world, or rather like a transition to a dystopian world that you've shown in the book. I wanted to talk a bit about the world building, because you've described this world that is kind of dystopian, kind of futuristic, but also feels so much like the contemporary society that we live in. So, can you talk a bit about the your world building process, the writing process of it?
Yeah, sure. Like firstly, what I said, that it started off as a short story. It was of around 5,000 words or so. It was just a short story,
Okay.
the first draft. So when I started editing it, I don't know, all kinds of ideas started coming in my mind, like what if this happens, what if that happens. I kept adding it, and it expanded. It got expanded. It took the shape of a novel. It was around 35,000 words or so. Then on the third edit, that's where it came to its current. Like it's a short novel, right? So
Yeah.
like was not that short. I mean, the second draft was not so short, but then I cut off a lot of parts, and this is what I kept. And I took special care in forming the world, as much care I took about forming the character,
Right.
because I believe that since the world is kind of uh, how should I say, it's kind of the catalyst which is pushing not just Jay but everybody else into this kind of a, like everybody's kind of messed up in this story. Like all the
Right.
characters, they're like kind of caricatures. I've tried to build all of them as caricatures, like parodies of actual humans. But this
Right.
world, the world is behaving as that. It's like a character of its own, the world.
Um,
So, like you've said, that it feels like a contemporary world because, yeah, it has been actually. There's a film by Denis Villeneuve called Enemy. So
okay.
in that film there was this aesthetic of orangish hue, like clouds of sand and dust filling up the entire sky and everything, so you can't even see anything. And I
Uh-huh.
actually saw this in real life. So my house where I live, it's in the city. So I was going somewhere and I saw that there was this cloud of uh, smoke and dust and all those things, and everything was looking brown and orange, and it was during daytime. And I was like, okay, so what if I build a world? I thought of that time, that thing that I saw, that image which was in
Mm.
my mind. So that's why I took very special care in describing the city in such a way, and I used figures of speech and
Yes.
in such a way that so that this image of the city gets in the reader's minds, so that they can
Right.
see them living in that place. So that's the process of building this city.
I see. I think I'm particularly very impressed by the fact that this is your debut novel because, like you mentioned, your writing style, it kind of invokes a painting, a picture of itself. Like while I was reading it, I could picture everything from the office to the city 8 and like his house, everything. There are also a few things that I really like that I really wanted to mention, like things like you mentioning these gas masks and the fact that the air in the city is basically it's polluted. So
That's
and because this world has sort of a fascist government, the federation. So there's a separation between the working class and the upper and the middle class. So would you say that this book that you've written is a commentary on the contemporary society?
Yeah, it could be. A lot of people have said it, but I usually, when people are like, I'll say something. A lot of people after reading the book, they called me and they said, "Dude, what the hell just happened? What went on over there? Can you please
Yeah.
explain what happened? We did not really get everything." Like, then I always say that however you want to take it, it's fine, because some people actually thought, okay, this is a commentary on society or something. Okay, that's fine. Some people said that this is just a character sketch. It's more about concentrated on the character, and everything else maybe he's just imagining things. Maybe since I've not really specified a proper year, I've not attributed
Yeah.
a time period.
Mhm.
So a lot of people did say that they interpreted it in a way that maybe everything that is going on is in Jay's head, is just making things
Yeah.
up in his mind. So even that, I'm completely fine with any kind of interpretation, as much as long as the person can back their claims up, because I have
Mm.
provided enough materials in the book. Like it's a short novel, but I've still provided enough um, subject
Yeah.
materials for people to form their own opinions about the
Right.
book.
Okay, so was this your intention, sort of like a multi-interpretary or like open ending sort of a book?
Yeah, it was my intention. Because I wanted people to keep thinking about this even after the book
Mm.
was over, after the reading was over. I wanted them to keep thinking about it, and so that they could go back or even maybe reread it a few times. And every time I've taken special efforts in making it in such a way. I mean, the words that I have used, I've tried to use them in such a way, or the sentences that I have constructed in such a way that
Right.
with every reading, you may or may not come up with some different kind of interpretation.
Right.
So
That's
a few
brilliant.
of my readers, yeah, a few of my readers have come up, like one reader has come up with multiple interpretations after
Hmm.
one read. So
Right.
that was my intention.
Right. I also feel like the ending itself is so mind-boggling, and I'm not going to spoil it for our readers. Obviously, we want you to pick up the book and read it for yourself. But I did want to talk a bit about like the character himself, because he like him and the world he's around. It's kind of, there's a dichotomy between both of them. He, like in the book you mentioned this sort of like a separation between dreamers and people who are like, productive. So like I could call him a dreamer as well, but I also like these very specific things that you mention here and there about him, like for example spider references between the conversations between him and his friends, or the fact that when he looks in the mirror he can see in colors. So is this was this intentional, this sort of foreshadowing that you have in the entire book?
Yes, kind of, because I talked about themes a bit earlier. I
Mm.
forgot to mention one theme, which is the
Mhm.
theme of identity. This
Right.
is an important, right? I forgot to mention before. Now that you've brought it up, I remember. No, nowhere in the book, if you recall, nowhere in the book did Jay actually see his face. He did not really see
Right.
his face. Every
Mm.
time he looks into the mirror, he sees a spider, or the mirror is foggy, or something happens.
Yeah.
And he does not even remember his own face.
Mm.
So
Right.
identity is an important thing in this story. So this dichotomy of the world that you have talked about, the world is trying to form rules and regulations for people to follow them.
Right.
But Jay is in this kind of position where he can't even remember his own face. So what somehow he is questioning his own sanity. At
Mm-hmm.
one hand, on the one hand, he's thinking that maybe the world has gone crazy, but on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, there is still this nagging feeling that maybe I'm the crazy one, maybe I'm going crazy,
Yeah.
maybe the world is me. So
Right.
this which I had in mind.
I see. I feel like while reading the book and while going through whatever was going in Jay's mind or everything that he was seeing in front of him, I feel like I was in the process, I was also evaluating myself. Like, if what I'm reading is actually, it's something I should trust. So there's this concept of unreliable narrator that I feel like, I personally feel like it's my interpretation that you've used in the book. So there's just so much thought that you've put into it. So can you just give us like a breakdown of your writing process of the book itself, not just the inspiration but like the writing process?
Okay, so the style of writing
Mhm.
that was hugely inspired by Stephen King, and
Ah,
since I've been a fan of those kinds of writing where you actually question the medium itself, like you try to break the barriers of the medium itself,
right.
be it in film or literature or whatever.
Hmm.
So in this novel, as you can see, sometimes I use italics to talk to mention what Jay is feeling. Sometimes words getting repeated, which is also a style of James Joyce, which I picked up. So
Hmm.
this I did not really do it consciously. So while drafting it, the second draft, the first draft was a short story. There was nothing in that.
Right.
When I was editing it, at that time I thought of making it like this, that there's a lucid kind of style, so that since I was planning to keep it short from the very beginning, so I felt like the reader should constantly keep shifting the pages, so that I did not give any such place where they could stop and they would be like, okay, I'll read them. Of course you can do it, but my intention was such that it should be a continuous reading. So that's why I
Right.
kept it kind of lucid the way I wrote. And
Mhm.
and while editing, I think editing is very important, because while editing it, I constantly used different kinds of figures of speech in between. So, and I used such sentences so that it could be interpreted in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And I used,
Right.
like I already said, I've used a lot of colors and imagery, a lot
Right.
of imagery. So yeah, that was my process of writing.
That's amazing. I feel like this is also kind of a class for the maybe the budding readers that could be budding writers who could be watching this. Like Can you give a bit of an advice on how you get to this kind of imagery sort of a writing, or like painting with words?
The first thing which I'd like to say is that reading is very important. I've read the works of a lot of new authors or debutant authors. You can, I mean, after reading a lot of books, there comes a time when you can pick up a book and you can tell that, okay, this person is not really well read. He's trying, but he's not that good. One of the compliments which I've received for this work is that a lot of people always tell me that they're surprised this is my debut novel. So this is, I always take this compliment because like it happens when you read a lot, your writing tends to reflect that you have read a lot, and somehow you will pick up, even if not consciously, you will pick up on your, maybe the books which have impacted you in a deep way. That style of writing will somehow get reflected on your work. So reading is very important, and staying committed to your work, that is also very important. And you need to just focus on writing, and you just need to stick to it until it's over, until you write the end. Just keep writing, don't stop in between. If you stop, this happens with me a lot. Like I'm saying this, but I'm a huge procrastinator actually. Since Arachnid has come out, there has been no other books of mine which have, I mean, in the past year. I'm still in the process of writing personally, because I've moved to a new city, because I've started my master's degree. So I've moved to a new city, and so in between that I could not really write. But this actually, whatever the reason, it actually hampers your schedule if you don't have this habit of writing every day. Like Stephen King says, make it a habit of writing every single day. He's right about this, because once you are out of this practice, it becomes very difficult to get back in. Even if you have the time, you feel like I'll start a few hours later, and then it never comes. So these are the few tips which I would like to give to budding authors.
Right. I also think that it's really amazing that you're able to pursue this passion of writing with also doing your masters. Can you tell us a bit about how you manage your time between the two?
When I was writing this book, at that time I was doing my bachelor's. So back then I was in the final year of my bachelor's, which I did in English. So back then, this was a question which would come back to me again and again. People would ask me, how do you manage your time? Because I'm also a filmmaker. I also make films. I'm short. I've not really made any big film or feature film yet. I'm still learning. So I make films and I write. So the thing is, you need to dedicate certain parts of the day to this work. Like if you have a book in your hand which you have to, you have to finish it. So if you write 2 pages a day, even in the, maybe at night before going to bed, you're writing, or you're just making some time to do it. This will keep happening. The pages will keep getting adding. So it will be over after the time. And studying is also like, you have to manage it somehow. Like you need to on schedule, and you need to stick to it. It depends on how you can manage it, how much you can tolerate. Because at times, I'll be very candid about this. Sometimes it does take a toll on your mental health as well, because keeping up to everything is, sometimes it becomes too much. It becomes overwhelming. So without exerting too much pressure on your mental health, if you can do everything, then it's fine. You can do it. Just you need to stick to a routine. That's it.
I think that's a really good advice. And I feel like this is something that nobody really mentions this, but this is always present. Like, how even pursuing your creative interests can sometimes take a toll on your mental health. So thank you so much for mentioning that. I also wanted to say, because you've been talking about how you have this practice of, or a habit of writing every day. So I'm assuming, because even if this is your debut novel, this is not the first time that you're putting pen to paper. So what's your writing history? Like, when were you inspired to start writing? How it all started?
I started writing at a very young age. My grandfather was an author, like contemporary writer. So I've been exposed to books since I was a little kid. I started with comic books when I was very small, and then I moved on to bigger, like novels and other literature. So I was always a reader, and every time, there have been phases in my life where once I was whenever I'm into something, a genre, I would try to write about those things. So I remember the first, it was a novel, but like juvenile. Like when I was 10 years old, I tried to write something like it. For that, at that time, for me, it was like the best thing ever, which I wrote. It was the kind of novel. So So I would say the stories to my friends at school. So that's when I began. Like when I was 9 or 10 years old, that's when I started writing. Like regularly, I started writing, and from then onwards, I got some of my works published in our local newspapers and magazines, and then and I had no intention of actually getting Arachnid published as a book.
Oh,
After writing, what? Yeah, after the manuscript was complete, I believed that. I mean, I'm not always very confident about what I write. Most of the times, I'm not. But this is one of the times. This was one of the rare occasions where I was actually convinced of my own work. I was like, yeah, this. I think people should read this because this might have some effect on some people's life. And I'm very happy. I'm happy with this because just a few days back, somebody posted on social media. They posted a picture of my book, and then they said that this is one of their all-time favorite books, and that was really.
oh,
I mean, yeah, and for me, that was really something because I never thought that my book, that my first book was going. Somebody is going to name it as their all-time favorite. So I think that's how you feel like, yeah, I've been successful in what I've done.
No, I mean, I completely believe that someone would say that this turned out to be something so amazing for them that they kind of think of it as their favorite book. Because like I mentioned as well, while I was reading it, when I went into the book, I wasn't expecting all the twists and turns and just me being so transfixed with your writing. So I completely believe them. But because you're talking about how you were convinced that you wanted to publish this book, kind of wanted people to read it. So is there something you want the readers to take from the book? Not a moral, not like a moral of the story, but something you want the readers to think about when they read this book?
To be very honest, I just want them to enjoy reading. That's it. I want them to have it because I remember the first person who, I mean, gave a like on on Instagram, those book reviewers, they post
Right, reviews. Yeah.
yeah, so they're professionals. So the first professional review which I got from a reviewer, she mentioned to me that she got nightmares for some time after reading the book. So that I took that as a compliment because a lot of people did say that, especially that part where Jay was trapped, that nightmare somehow, Jay's nightmare, that somehow became the nightmare of my readers. I think 5 or 6 of them told me personally that they got nightmares. And
Okay.
I actually liked that. So I can't say that I want my readers to have nightmares, but I do want them to have a good time. And by good time, I mean that they could laugh because there's a lot of black comedy going on in this book.
Yeah.
They could laugh, they could have a good time, they could feel scared. So, but I just want them to feel, that's it. To be empathetic, that's all. Feel some empathy for the characters, for themselves. That's
It's nice that you mentioned dark comedy because I was laughing a bit about in the book when the Federation mentions that when you're in a relationship you shouldn't talk, you shouldn't communicate with each other so much because it will actually help you not break up with each other, which was like kind of really funny. And how in the entire book he's kind of also evaluating his own relationship with his wife and his child. So I think that was brilliantly done. My last question for you would be, what are your future plans? Like, I know you mentioned that you're still writing, but what can we expect from you next?
I'm right now working on 2 projects parallelly. One is a collection of short stories, and there is another short novel.
Okay.
I'm actually planning for continuing this format of writing short novels or novellas for now because I think that writing a novel, like a full-length novel, requires a lot of commitment. And like I said, I have commitment issues, so I can't really put all my time into writing a novel
Okay.
at least at this stage of my career. So I will focus on writing short novels, and I don't want to be actually recognized by a particular style of writing, but then I want my writings to somehow make people think for a long time. Like even after finishing the book, I want them to keep talking about it. So this is going to be my strategy for my next books as well. That this is going to be same way, this like surrealistic and absurdist world. I want to keep exploring these parts of literature.
I see. I feel like even with this book, you have definitely achieved that sense of insightfulness that the readers can get from reading. So yeah, I mean, that speaks for your work itself. And thank you so much for talking to me, Aditya. It was fascinating. I loved hearing your thoughts and how much like thoughts you put in the book itself or the ones that you put in your writing. One last thing that I would like to ask you, because you mentioned it that you have commitment issues. Do you ever see yourself writing like, full length novels, like once maybe, or when you're in that period of your life where you are able to commit to it?
Sure, sure. I already have plans and ideas of what my full-length novel is going to be about. I
Okay.
mean, just not right now. I mean, after I finish my studies and everything,
Okay.
I just have a stable life. After that, I will focus on writing a full-length novel.
So looks like you have these plans in motion, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. And that's a good news, because I am sure your readers must be wanting to read more of your books. So that's amazing. And I feel like I personally will definitely be picking up your next book. So thank you so much today for talking to me about Arachne. This was an amazing read, and I'm sure our readers, our audience would also feel the same. Is there anything that you would like to say to the audience before we close this session?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that if you wish to read Arachnid, then you can get it. It's on Ukiyoto's official website. It's on Amazon, and it will give you a few laughs here and there. It will make you think. Could get you scared. And I would just like to say that support authors, budding authors, debutant
Yes.
authors. Reviews matter a lot. Getting reviews has been actually tough because I've got a lot of my books sold, but getting reviews is really difficult because sometimes I understand that it's not always possible to put reviews, give reviews, but
Right.
when it comes to debutant authors, reviews are very important. So readers who are picking up, if you are picking up a book of a debutant author, please be sure to leave a review. It really helps out.
Right. In that, would you like to mention your social media or something where our readers can leave you a review or something like that?
Yeah, Modak Aditya. That's my Instagram. So you can find me there. You can ping me. You can talk about my book there. I'm always available there.
And you can always leave a review on Amazon as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again for joining us, and thank you, Aditya, for talking to me about this book. I had a wonderful time, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I hope you have a great weekend ahead.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.